Hi, welcome to Airbnb 101. Ever thought to yourself, wow, I wonder what kind of effect Airbnb has on the hotel market? Well, let me tell you, it's all I think about at night. Are you looking for answers like I am? Look no further. My team and I are going to tell you all you want to know. Let's meet the guys. I'm Martin.
Hi, I'm Seth.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Hey Alex, what is Airbnb?
Well, Airbnb allows the listing, searching, and booking for residential accommodation through web and mobile application platforms. Providers, so those giving up their home for a while, can offer their entire home or an individual room for a set price. The entire booking process is handled by Airbnb.
But Alex, how do people avoid getting scammed?
The peer-to-peer system is facilitated by host or guest certification process, as well as a review and rating system. Also, both the consumer and the provider are charged a fee by Airbnb. This limits people's desires to scam you.
Hey guys, I heard you talking about my favorite peer-to-peer room sharing service. Did you know in 2015 there were over 80 million room nights booked across the world through Airbnb? That's some insane willingness and ability of consumers to pay at a given price level. That's some crazy demand, am I right?
Hold up, let's take a step back. Before we can explain what Airbnb is doing to the hotel market, we have to discuss the hotel market itself. In 2015, there were approximately 4,000 individual hotels in Canada that offered more than 30 rooms, according to HLT's Branded Hotel Inventory Report. That's a relatively large number of independent sellers producing slightly differentiated products, if you ask me. This type of monopolistic competition has low barriers to entry and exit, allowing for firms to enter the market as they wish.
If the hotels are only slightly differentiated, why don't consumers just all go for the cheapest hotel? You know, following the law of demand, the lower the price, the larger the quantity consumers wish to purchase.
Tastes and preferences. The feelings of consumers about the desirability of different goods change depending on the person. For example, businessmen might be more inclined to choose a hotel based on its location, whereas a family might choose one based on its child-friendly environment.
That's interesting. But Martin, let's say the price of a typical hotel falls. How responsive will consumers to be this change in price?
Well, the price elasticity of demand varies depending on the type of consumer. Furthering what Seth discussed, a businessman will be less responsive to a change in price than a couple planning a weekend vacation sometime in the near future. If you take a look at this diagram, you can see that the demand curve for a businessman is a lot steeper than the demand curve for your average Joe.
So what you are saying is a businessman's demand for hotels will be much more inelastic than people traveling for leisure.
Exactly. Typically, as your income rises, you will stay in more and more hotels and travel more and more.
Based on all this, it's safe to say hotels are what we call a normal good. With more and more income, people's consumption tends to increase. We can assume that rational people want to buy more and more hotels until their total satisfaction is maximized or their budget is depleted.
Guys, I think it's important we talk about what would happen to the demand for a good when a good of similar quality that can replace it is introduced to consumers. Airbnb and hotels are substitute goods like this. First, we have to look at the indifference curves for hotel rooms and Airbnb rooms. An indifference curve plots all the market baskets the consumer views as being equally satisfactory. With Airbnb and hotels, because they are imperfect substitutes, the indifference curve will not be a straight line, rather a convex curve, as illustrated on this diagram.
The reason the two goods are imperfect substitutes are: 1. Hotels offer a variety of extra services like minibar or housekeeping that Airbnb doesn't offer. 2. Airbnb rooms and hotels cannot be in the same exact location.
Along the indifference curve for these two goods, the consumer's willingness to trade one good for another is decreasing. This implies the marginal rate of substitution is diminishing.
Why might someone choose Airbnb over a hotel room then?
Well, Airbnb is a special type of good known as an inferior good. These are goods whose consumption falls when income rises. A study by BusBud in the United States revealed the average cost of Airbnb rooms was between $35 and $70 cheaper than the average hotel room. This provides consumers with a cheaper alternative if they can't afford to stay in a nice hotel.
Well, that could be debatable. Some consumers might prefer Airbnb, just like how some people might prefer vaping. Typically, younger consumers tend to favor newer, more hip, and with it goods. Also, the more people that use a service like Airbnb or Uber, for example, tends to cause others to consume the product as well.
This bandwagon effect could be a reason Airbnb is not your typical inferior good.
Did you guys know that Airbnb has grown so big it has the largest market value among the companies in the hospitality industry? $25.5 billion in 2015, $2.5 billion more than its closest competitor, Hilton Worldwide Holdings.
Wow!
So I understand what Airbnb is, but what kind of economy is this?
This economic system has many variations of its definition, but it is often considered one in which assets or services are shared between private individuals, either free or for a fee, typically by means of the internet. It's also defined as an economic model in which individuals are able to borrow or rent assets owned by someone else.
Is this the idea of a sharing economy?
Yes! The model of a sharing economy is most likely to be used when the price of a particular asset is high and the asset is not fully utilized all the time. For example, if you own a house and you're traveling around the world for a couple months, why not put your house on Airbnb while it's not being used and make some cash?
That makes sense. So this is a similar concept to Uberization?
What is Uberization?
It's the idea of a market that has been modified by the introduction of a cheap and efficient alternative.
Ah, okay. But what drives this process?
Well, Alex, the driving forces behind the creation of a sharing economy are 1. Information technology and social media. This allows people to connect with other people and allows a business to connect with their consumers. 2. Social commerce. This is the idea of selling stuff online. 3. An urban lifestyle. You know, people are just more urban these days. 4. Increasing volatility and cost of natural resources. So frankly, it's just a lot more expensive these days to build a hotel.
So what you're saying is Airbnb fits this category perfectly and has emerged as the Uber of the hotel and hospitality industry.
Exactly. Do you guys know what kind of benefits there are with this type of economic system?
Let me guess. Increased productivity due to greater utilization of assets.
Wow, how'd you know that? You must be taking Econ 2001 with that Ted Grzecki guy.
Oh, I sure am.
How does this increase productivity, Seth?
Well, if you have a house or a car, they aren't being used all the time. Putting them on the market with a sharing economy enables them to be used more efficiently. This boosts productivity and profits for those involved.
I bet it also reduces operating costs.
That's right, because in a sharing economy, providers already own the assets used in the service, whereas in a traditional model, producers have to build a hotel or buy a medallion for their taxi. The costs for production are naturally lower.
Can this sharing economy apply to any existing good or service?
Well, not really. Theoretically, a sharing economy can work with any service as long as the asset involved is underutilized and both parties are mutually benefiting. With goods, however, it's harder to apply this concept.
What do you mean? Do you have examples?
Of course I have examples. Services like transportation and housing, which we've already discussed, work well. Other functioning examples include Washio, which provides laundry services, and Postmates, which delivers packages. However, certain goods cannot and should not be shared, like toothbrushes and deodorant.
This all sounds great, but let's not ignore some of the important legality issues that have been raised from sharing economies.
Like what?
Well, both Uber and Airbnb have faced numerous lawsuits and challenges from governments and private companies. For example, in San Francisco, the law requires renters to register as hosts with the city, carrying liability insurance, and pay the city's 14% hotel tax. In Quebec, There is a similar system, but the tax is only 3.5%.
Good point. Also, we might want to add that although there are several benefits to the economy from sharing, the benefits are not evenly distributed. The company involved often charges service or commission fees in order to cover expenses. For example, Airbnb charges between 9 and 15%, which is mostly paid by the consumer. Uber takes a 30% commission from its drivers, who are often left making less than minimum wage.
To sum things up, Airbnb is a prime example of the new sharing economy. This model boosts productivity, offers a substitute good to the existing market, and reduces operating costs. It has been so successful that in Toronto, according to Ernst & Young, 85% of hotels said millennials and Airbnb have made them rethink their business model.
Wow, I know so much more about Airbnb and the sharing economy now. I sure wish it was on the exam. I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I did.